A Republican wave of victory swept the 2014 midterm elections. The GOP maintained its hold on all statewide offices in Oklahoma and tightened its grip on the House and Senate. Republicans also regained control of the U.S. Senate, where Jim Inhofe and newly elected U.S. Senator James Lankford will be in a Republican majority seeking to undo much of what has occurred during the first 6 years of the Obama administration.
When the votes were counted Tuesday night, the result was the largest congressional majority for Republicans since World War II. In addition to strengthening their majority in the U.S. House, where the GOP now holds 243 seats to the Democrats' 179, Republicans picked up at least 7 seats in the Senate, giving them control of that chamber for the first time since 2006. Oklahoma's senior U.S. Senator Jim Inhofe left no doubt on election night. He and the new Senate majority are prepared to battle President Obama on a number of fronts during the president's last 2 years in office.
First of all, do away with a lot of the Obama regulations that are killing not just our manufacturers, our producers, our bankers, but also our farmers. They say the overregulation of the EPA is hurting the farms more than anything else.
Inhofe will likely chair the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. In that role, he'll work to loosen regulation of the fossil fuel industry.
We have so much coal, oil, and gas. We can be totally independent across the United States, except the president not allowing permits, not allowing exploration in federal lands. That can all change.
Inhofe will be joined in that effort by Senator-elect James Lankford, who will fill the remaining 2 years of U.S. Senator Tom Coburn's term. Lankford wants to take action on the long-stalled northern leg of the Keystone Pipeline, carrying crude oil from the Canadian border to Cushing.
The southern leg of the Keystone Pipeline from Cushing to the Gulf, that permit was requested the same time the northern leg from Canada to Cushing was requested. The southern leg has been permitted and built, and there's actually oil moving through it now. The northern leg is still waiting for the permit to start construction.
Lankford hopes to hit the ground running when he returns to Washington. Looking at committee assignments, the freshman senator says he's most interested in the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee.
I've already worked on the Oversight Committee in the House for the last 4 years. That is the companion committee in the Senate. It's oversight of every single agency. It works with the regulators to try to work on how are we doing this correctly? Should we do this at all? Are they actually rolling out what the actual law says, or are they going beyond what the law says in the regulation?
Lankford sees the Republican takeover of the Senate as an opportunity to end the gridlock which has seen Congress enact little legislation the past few years.
Even appropriations bills. It's a standard practice you do every single year. You do appropriations bills. The Senate has not done appropriations bills in 7 years at all, 0. So that's very significant to us to try to re-engage in the legislative process.
One item high on Lankford's agenda is changing the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Lankford says Dodd-Frank resulted in overregulation of the banking industry and hurt consumer lending.
Once we start to get into that, we've got to fix, okay, how can we get rural lending back again? How can we actually engage in small business lending in Main Street, small town, rural America again? Farm credit lending, all those things matter. The federal policies have slowed those things down. It's going to take federal action to actually turn that around.
Lankford is also targeting the signature accomplishment of the Obama administration, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
I would like nothing better for my citizens that I represent to not have to live under this law. I would absolutely vote again, as I have multiple times, to repeal this entire law. But I also have a responsibility to do whatever I can to protect the people of my district from the harmful effects of this law.
Lankford argues some employers have cut their employees' work hours because of the Affordable Care Act. He supports a House bill that increases from 30 to 40 the number of hours an employee is required to work to be considered a full-time employee eligible for employer-sponsored health care coverage.
I think a lot of people would support that. I think the majority of Americans they already think that is true anyway, but they're finding out it's not. So let's set it on his desk, basically force him to veto that, and I hope he wouldn't, but explain to the American people why we don't have a 40-hour work week in America, why you think we should have a 30-hour work week like France does.
Lankford believes Republicans will work with the president on the deficit, but maintains tax increases will be off the table.
The highest amount of tax revenue ever in the history of the country came in this year. Second highest amount that's ever come in the Treasury was last year. So this is not a matter of our rate is not high enough. It's a matter of our spending is incredibly high. We have record amounts of revenue coming into the Treasury. We're just overspending even that.
With so many areas of disagreement between the Democratic president and a Republican Congress, PBS NewsHour political commentator David Brooks doesn't see much getting accomplished in the short term.
Basically, we're going to have 2 years of probable gridlock. Not much will get passed. Probably more acrimony and people jockeying for the next presidential run.
Brooks was in Oklahoma City for a forum sponsored by Oklahoma State University's Spears School of Business. He believes the pressure will be on Republicans during the next 2 years.
Well, one of the things they have to do is have a growth agenda. You know, they were elected mostly on economic grounds. People want jobs. They want rising wages. Republicans have to come up with an agenda that seems to offer that. And they've got bits and pieces of that agenda, but running for office, they didn't really present it. They just said, we're not Obama.
Langford agrees Republicans are now under the gun to show they can govern.
It's a lot easier just to say no to everything. It's a lot easier to say, no, we disagree, we're just not going to do it, than it is to actually say, okay, not no, but what is the yes? How would you do it instead? And that's the important thing that the Senate has to work through right now.
Even with all the areas of contention, Langford still believes Republicans can find common ground with the president.